And we are back for more Book of whatever the hell this entire show has been, because, oh my god, what an underwhelming finale. Even though a lot of stuff happened, and there's a lot of
Oh,
action all over the
I'm
place.
sure. I'm sure. Like some fanboys are creaming their pants, but it was
I
it
don't
was
know.
it was the worst piece of nonsense I'd ever seen. It was just. First of all, can I say like this action? Like it was an entertaining episode. I'll grant that,
Of course.
but it's very clear that over the course of doing their writers' room, they had a bunch of episodes, and then they were like, okay, every dangling plot thread, we're just going to put like a post-it on the wall. Okay. And then they got to the end and they had all these post-its on the wall, and they're like, well, got to cram all these post-its into our rumble. Like that's clearly just what they did. And then they decided to just like resolve them all in one big battle. Like there was no
Uh,
carefully crafting any writing. It was just, well, we need to have everyone show up at the end, whether it makes sense or not. We seeded that plot point, and then they need to come back.
Yeah, that's you're not wrong, and that the Avengers style team up. I'll get into why it doesn't work, like why it worked in the
Yeah.
Avengers, but why it doesn't work here. Real quick, someone did ask me that, and I love when you guys tell me this and do this. Someone who doesn't watch Book of Boba Fett but listens to us, they ask if we could resume our recaps of the episodes before we get into the discussion because they want to know what happens in it because they listen to us talk about it, but they don't watch it, which 100% no problem. So, Chapter 7, In the Name of Honor. Fett's forces patrol Mos Espa, and Bane and the Pikes plan to fight him. At Matto's hangar, Peli Matto, RTD2's starfighter lands, bringing Grogu, wearing Din's chainmail, into her custody. Bane and his Pike confront Fett, Shan, and Din Djarin outside the sanctuary, while the other crime families, having betrayed Fett, attack his soldiers throughout the city, killing the Gamorrean guards, which, like... those are the only guys who really died on
I
Boba's
know.
side.
I was really sad. It's insane the amount of plot armor every single protagonist had, except for the Gamorrean guards. Like
Yeah, that
over the
was
top plot armor. Like you could have killed a few others, and at least kill some hackers or kill some people from the village or somebody. But how many times was the Wookiee actually hit with a blaster? Like it's amazing. Like he doesn't have armor. Like, oh yeah, I get it. You're tough, but you're still just a piece of meat like everybody else. Like I don't care if you're 5 times stronger than a human. You can't just take a blaster fire to the to the chest and be like, oh, I'm tough. Like, where does that come from?
so
I'm getting ahead of myself.
no, you're fine. After Shan helps the hackers gang, Fett and Din Djarin hide, but order the aliens major domo Twilight guy to negotiate with the Pike. Diverting the
Yeah.
Pike's attention, the Crime Lord and the Mandalorian assault them but are soon outnumbered. Freetown citizens and the hackers gang arrive to save the two. However, the Pikes have droids with shields, giant droids with shields, come out and start attacking them, routing Fett's forces. Din Djarin, Grogu, and Fett's Rancor destroy the droids before Bane scares off the Rancor. Fett loses his gun in a duel with Bane but survives by killing him with his gaffy stick. Grogu puts the Rancor, who went on a rampage, to sleep, ending the battle. In Mos Eisley, Shan kills the Pike bosses, the mayor, and the other 3 crime lords. As Mos Espa praises Fett, Din Djarin and Grogu fly off in their N1 starfighter, and in the mid-credit scene, Cobb Vanth heals in a bacta tank at Fett's palace while the modifier prepares to implement cybernetic enhancements. So, I'm wondering about the cybernetic enhancements. Are they going to give Cobb Vanth a robot arm? He just got shot in the shoulder.
Yeah, probably something like that. I mean, it might be like under his skin or something. Where we can't see it, like with
Right.
like with Ming Na Wen.
Mm-hmm.
Where we can't. They needed to bring back that plot thread. Even though that wasn't something that needed to be brought back, but they needed to bring it back again just because they needed to have everyone in the finale.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the Tusken Raiders, which was our one guess. Like when he flew off, you know how in the middle of the battle he flies off, and you're like,
Right.
like where was he going? I have, and then I was like, it would take him hours to get the Tusken Raiders. So they can't really be doing that. But then again, but still, like, somehow he parked his Rancor somewhere where no one caught wind of it, and brought it into the battle.
This is what, like, okay, I have a couple of notes, but you just gave me a great idea as to, I'm a little confused. So I was just wondering just now as you were saying that, why didn't he bring his ship to turn the tide?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's so many little things like this where I just think about the logistics of Star Wars. Like, you have spaceships that can, like, and I'm confused about the number of people each side had. Like, I thought the Syndicate had like hundreds of people, and then they show up to this fight with like 3 dudes, and you're like, what are you doing? And
So
they're like,
they
we
basically have like 6 guys who infinitely respawn after they're killed, because that's what it felt like.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like, you can just add this list of the things I hated. Okay, I'm just gonna spew the things I can remember. Okay, I hate how, yeah, all the forces were somehow spread around, so there was only 6 guys at a time. That was weird, because they clearly just had 6 costumes, and they're like, okay, bring them back in. Now we're going to do this scene. Okay, bring them back in. Now we're going to do this scene. Like, they're supposed to have this massive force. So that pissed me off. One, the hackers, they're running around, in the middle of a battle, like, just in the middle of a desert. Like, they should be sweaty. They should be dirty. They still look fucking pristine. The guy's white fucking coat is pristine white the whole time.
Some of them should have died, at least.
I hate it in nearly every scene where the Rancor is smashing something or people are like ducking. It's very clear that they're in a studio, not ducking and not seeing the thing. Like, no one's putting any effort into acting that a big explosion is happening or a monster is. They're just kind of standing there being like, oh no, oh, like, there's a monster, there's shrapnel everywhere, there's rocks, there's fire, it's devastation, and everybody's just kind of standing around going, oh no, oh, like, they can't even be bothered to duck. The only time they bothered to do it was one scene with Amy Sedaris and the negotiator guy who, like, jumped behind a table, and they did a wind thing when they were hiding behind the table. They did it one time, but other than that, like, it was as if, it was very clear that they were all on this sound stage, like in their ring screen or whatever. Also, just the strategy, like, in every situation, the heroes decide to put themselves in the middle while the villains have all the higher ground around them constantly. And then they fight themselves out of that situation over and over and over again. Like, why would you implement that strategy? It's just so weird. Like, put yourself in the weakest situation. Ugh.
Well, to what I just said about Boba Fett using his Slave One ship, you could argue that maybe he didn't want to cause destruction to the city, which is ridiculous because he destroyed the city anyways with the Rancor attack. So
yeah.
Okay, I got a couple of notes. The giant Scorpionic, whatever the fuck they're called, the droids were kind of cool, but they didn't kill anybody.
Are those the same? They seemed very similar to some of the droids from Phantom Menace.
The droidicas.
Okay. Yeah, they seem similar to those.
The other notes I have here, I still don't get Boba Fett's motive, because in this episode he said, like, the town are his people. But the only people he were really connected to were the Tuskens. Like, his whole gimmick, like, here is, I will not abandon these people. But the motherfucker leaves the fight to come back with, like, this intense, insane monster, and then proceeds to destroy his people's city. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. If you had seeded a couple scenes of him spending time with the hackers, like, around town, or you had Tusken Raiders in the battle or something, but there was none of that. Like, there was none of him, like, connecting with and spending time with anybody. You know, if anything, the only people he spent time with was the casino people, Jennifer Beal, and she got killed, and they all got killed, and the Tuscans who got killed. So these are a bunch of strangers. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't spend any time with these people. He shouldn't care about them. They didn't see that. It's ridiculous. These aren't his people. He's not from Tatooine. He's from Camino.
Speaking of which, like I put this on my Twitter. Like we spend 7 episodes with this fuckhead wanting to like rule over Tatooine, only for him to say in the last 3 minutes of the episode, "I don't think I'm cut out for this." Bro,
Right.
what have we been doing?
Because you have to bow to people, because you have to bow to people in pain. Dude, you climbed out of a fucking sarlacc, like covered in acid, and then spent years in the desert with Tuscans. Like, shouldn't you be a little tough by now? Like
If I was Ming-Na Wen, I would have strangled his ass after he said that. But like the one thing I find weird is that he spent this entire trilogy, his own not trilogy, I'm sorry, his own spin-off, losing. Like I get that he lost quite a bit of like fights throughout this entirety of the show. Like I get that the theme of the show is that one line from season 8, the lone wolf dies but the pack survive, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But that's not the Boba Fett we came to see. Like his experience with the Tuskens was nice, but what they should have done, in my opinion, was like a John Wick style revenge story. Like after the Tuskens died, and like him going out and getting revenge on all these people, and falling into that thing again that he was that cycle that he was in before he met the Tuskens. But instead, we kind of got like a weird bootleg version of The Godfather. Even in the final scene that you were just discussing, he's walking around town, and the people are like saying, "Hey, here's some fruit." It reminded me of when Vito was walking around in part 2 of The Godfather.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Every time someone mentioned about him having his family or something, I'm like, it didn't sit right with me because this doesn't seem like a crime family. It just seems like a bunch of random people together.
And I would have said that they were trying to parallel it if they had shown, rather than killing all of the crime family leaders all at once in one place, they would have done it in separate locations. Then it would have at least felt a little more savage and a little more coordinated. Like it just, you have a little montage of this person getting killed and then this person getting killed and then this person getting killed, like at the end of Godfather. And then it would have worked better to parallel it like that, but instead it's just this like all of the villains are clumsily in one little room where they can be picked off really easily.
I do disagree slightly with you there because Fennec, she was incredibly awesome in the end, like the way she took out all the bosses, because that's the type of master assassin shit I've been waiting to see from her for a long time. But I will say though, at the same time, it's kind of a shame that she killed them and not Boba, because Bane's like, oh, by the way, the crime syndicate killed the Tuskens, not the Nikto bike guys. So, okay, then what's the point in ever telling him that? Like, no
why? I don't understand why Cad Bane did that. In fact, I don't understand why Cad Bane was in this battle. He's a bounty hunter. What's his angle? What's his benefit?
Money.
I mean, does he get more money? Like he doesn't he get paid as a job, for his job anyway? And it looks like he's already going to lose at this point. So
see, this is where you make a good point. So Cad Bane being in this wasn't for like the average viewer. It was for people like me. Because he should have been in it since the beginning. It would have made for more of an interesting story if the two of them had their own rivalry set from the beginning of the show. But the only people who got any emotional payoff from him showing up were the Clone Wars fans like me. If you didn't watch it, well, sucks, because, And that's dumb, because as much as I love the fan service, like, aimed at people like me, I want those who didn't see it, like you, to get excited. But
I felt it was almost a shame to kill off such a good villain. Because the villains in this were pretty lame. Did they retroactively make the Fishman the head of the Syndicate? Because I thought he was just like communicating with him on behalf of the Syndicate. But I think at the end they retroactively made him the leader of the Syndicate. He's the least intimidating character you could possibly have as the head of a very powerful drug running, family.
Which fish guy? The guy at the end that gets killed by Fennec?
Yeah.
That's what all the Pikes look like.
Oh, okay. So
under
there
the
could be
helmet.
more Pikes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like he's one of the representatives on Tatooine for the real Syndicate because the Syndicate is like supposed to be like really big. But no, you're right.
Okay.
Cad Bane was a great villain even in the Clone Wars. He was super. There's a scene in the Clone Wars where this is stupid. There's a scene in the Clone Wars where Mace Windu, Anakin, and I forget who else are trying to like enter his mind with the Force, and he's just fighting them off, which I thought was like super neat. And he's
Yeah.
just a very intimidating guy, and he just shows up to, I guess, intimidate everybody. Which okay, great, but only for 2 episodes.
And piss people off. Like he just wants to make. It's just like he's making Boba Fett angry for no reason. Um, I don't know. It's like maybe if you knew about, maybe if I knew about his backstory and his history with Boba Fett and understood like what he was up to. But for me, it's just like this random guy has shown up and is becoming the face of this syndicate and is taunting Boba Fett for no reason, and then goes in and battles him to the death for no reason when it wasn't really his fight. He's a bounty hunter, but
Mm,
so it's just kind of, I don't know, that was weird. It was just weird. I mean, I admit that I think I'm just trying to think of like the things, I don't want to be all negative so I'm trying to think of the things that worked or worked somewhat. Um, I thought that the negotiator guy going out and, creating a diversion was okay, though I don't know how Boba Fett wrote all that down so quickly. He's like, here's my offer. He like does like 2 strokes and sends him out there.
Also from The Godfather Part 2, when Michael is talking to the casino guy, here's my offer. Nothing.
Yeah.
And so I like The Godfather. A little bit of a
No, there's definitely a lot of callbacks to The Godfather.
sure.
There's no doubt about that. So I thought that was okay.
Well, to me personally,
I
the negotiator guy was kind of annoying. Him and Pelly.
oh
I know you
yeah
like
yeah
Pelly, but
I do think he's super annoying, but I felt like, okay, if you're gonna have a at least a somewhat clever way to create a diversion to turn the tide, because the two men are stuck in this room, completely surrounded. How are they gonna get out? And they kind of used it as a technique, though. Because they had such plot armor, it probably wouldn't have mattered. But yeah, I don't know.
to be fair, their plot armor is Mandalorian Beskar armor, which we saw here that it can deflect lasers, but if
Right?
they're
Is it
overwhelmed,
magnetic or something? Why don't they aim at their dicks? Like they're getting so much fire. Why aren't they getting hit in the dick?
I I have no idea. You'll have to ask. Let's
Or
go to Star
or
Wars
legs,
Comic Con and ask them.
or legs, or arms, or whatever. Like, is it magnetic? Does it draw in the blaster fire?
Maybe
Like,
maybe they're moving around so much they don't get hit in the. I know what you mean though. I get what you mean.
yeah. Like also like when the Rancor like bites Mando's head, and you're like, okay, for the other people he like clearly like gulped them down or went mid body, and here he decides to go right onto the strong a Beskar helmet. Like, oh come on, twice, and you're like, come on, stupid Rancor.
When the episode begins, I will say I thought at first they were bringing back Luke again so soon.
Oh yeah, I
Wow.
thought that too.
But
I thought the same thing.
But even though Luke didn't show up, like it's still pretty weird for Luke not to have come himself, especially since this is his home planet.
Which reminds me of again, I'm going to rant on Return of the Jedi. One of my least favorite lines of Return of the Jedi is, that you reminded me of it just then. So they're on their way to the Sarlacc pit, and Han says, Han's line is okay. Han goes, my eyes must be improving. I used to only see a big black blur, and now all I see is a big white blur. And then Luke says to him, there's not much to see. I used to live here, And then Han says, you're going to die here, And I was like, what a stupid line. Like, do you think Han doesn't fucking know you're from Tatooine? Like, he met you on Tatooine, He called you farm boy the entire first fucking movie. He knows you're a fucking moisture farmer from Tatooine. Like, he knows who you fucking are, you know? Like, imagine if you were like, you know, to me, you were like, you know, I used to live in New Jersey. I'd be like, oh, really? Really, Carmine? Like, I didn't fucking know that about you. like really? Oh, you're from Brazil. I didn't find like what the I fucking like it's the worst fucking I mean, there's a lot of fucking bad lines from Return of the Jedi, but I used to live here, you know. Like, what do you think I fucking forgot the events of Star Wars?
I feel like every episode we do a review on, you always have to like throw in a Return of the Jedi hate.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, okay. So yeah. This is his home.
That he wouldn't come back to his home. But then again, it's either the budget wasn't there for more CGI, or you'd have another problem altogether. Because if Luke came back, then the whole fight would have been over too quickly. Like in
all right, here's my honeypot, my explanation for that. So we know that Luke's friends are still alive on Tatooine.
Yes.
He still has attachments on Tatooine. A Jedi cannot have attachments.
But what about Leia?
If you've made out with your sister, she doesn't count as an attachment.
Okay, that must be a rule.
It negates everything.
Oh, gotcha.
It makes it also weird and creepy that the Force is just kind of like confused. So that's allowed.
Of course.
But yeah, no, he's not allowed attachments, so he can't go home to help his friends.
To be fair, he doesn't. Mando and Boba aren't really his friends. He actually fought Boba a couple years ago, briefly on the Sarlacc.
Yeah, and I suppose this is Mos Espa and not Mos Eisley, so know. Well, he's not even from Mos Eisley, is he? He's from a small village outside of Anchorhead, right?
I think I forgot where he's from. Really, I hate Tatooine so much. I'm sorry, I hate these fucking desert planets. I really do. But my whole thing
half
is
of Star Wars is fucking desert planets.
I know. My whole thing is like if Luke came back, then the whole fight would have been over too quickly, just like in like a Mando season 2 finale. But on the other hand, if he did come back and then didn't help, you'd have to explain why the last Jedi in the whole galaxy is sitting back watching all this awfulness unfold on his own home planet. So it's kind of like a weird, you damned if you do, damned if you don't. So he just sent Grogu with R2, which, okay, that's, I guess R2 flew the X-Wing. Okay, still feels a little weird. The other thing I have here is how Mando's season 2 finale was so good that it kind of ruined Book of Boba Fett's finale for me. Not because Book of Boba Fett's finale was terrible, but also because it had no setup for the next series or any major guest star from the original trilogy. Because we were all expecting Han Solo, especially considering how he has history with the Pikes themselves in his own spin-off film. Remember in Solo?
Yeah.
He gets in conflict with them, so...
I think they really messed up not having a face to the big bad. I mean, the Hutts came in and then the Hutts came out. I imagine the Hutts will be season 2 if they're going to do...
Oh, God, I hope not. Oh, my God.
Yeah. I mean, they saved them, though. They saved their CGI Hutts. I mean, so it's got to be the Hutts for season 2. And then, I assume it's happening, season 2. But yeah, I think they needed a face to the big bad. They needed...
Cad Bane should have been their main enforcer.
Cad Bane should have been there from the beginning. From the beginning. I don't know. I don't think they needed so many characters. It felt crowded. Like, I admit that so I do think that the presence of the Rancor and the return of him on the Rancor was a good surprise. I had forgotten about the Rancor.
Same.
Him coming back to settle the score, because you're like, oh, he has nobody coming. How's he going to win this? The Rancor is the answer. Like, that would have worked by itself. Like, you could have cut out all of the random stupid scenes of them fighting in plaza after plaza after plaza of the fucking city, cut the hackers, like, or just have them killed off or something, like have a quarter of the scenes that they had with the hackers. None of those seemed to work. I kind of liked Mando on the rickshaw. I thought that scene looked pretty good. It felt a little more Star Warsy, like that droid and everything. I kind of liked that sequence, but but the sequences that worked for me were few and far between. Like why would they all tackle the Wookiee, rather than kill him? And then so he can come back. And every time they shoot him, it doesn't do anything. And why would they push the Gamorrean guards off a cliff? And all these kind of just weird stuff.
This is why you politely in another episode we did of Book of Boba Fett where I said like this kind of feels like a kids show. You politely shot me down on that by saying yeah it's a kids show, but at the same time they just had a terrorist attack. So
Yeah.
this is like the struggle I'm having with this show because it seems like it kind of is a kids show, but then they do shit like that where it's like oh I guess it's not. It feels like the show is fighting with itself to have some more adult elements and then tone it back a bit. For example, I
Yeah.
agree with you. When Chrysanthemum was being ganged up on by the lizard guys, the lizard guys didn't have any blasters. They took out like steel swords and shit. And I expected all of them to come in and stab them all at the same time. But instead of doing that, they just tackled them.
Yeah.
Like so it's like the show is having this fight with itself, like it wants to show like this intense bloodbath, but at the same time
Yeah, I mean, it's also got echoes of like the whole freeze rebel scum, pew, you're dead. Freeze rebel scum, pew, you're dead. Like, the Empire keeps saying freeze and then and then the heroes slaughter everybody.
it's to show you that the Empire did nothing wrong this entire time.
Yeah, except blow up a planet.
We don't talk about that.
But I mean, if you think about keeping drug dealers at bay, I mean, I guess the Empire was much better at keeping drug dealers at bay than the New Republic. The New Republic's too busy writing traffic tickets.
Oh, by the way, I'm actually kind of wrong. Kinda. So, at the very end, I just said how one of the reasons I didn't like the finale doesn't really set up the next one. It doesn't have to set up the next one, but this is this is Disney. They own Marvel. They do it in Marvel. They did it with Mando season 2 finale. They should kind of do it here. Now we don't need a guest star like Han Solo to make or break it. We really don't. But I would have liked a setup for the next series, whatever it may be. Maybe Andor, Mando season 3, Kenobi, something. But we did kind of get a bit of setup in regards to Cobb Vanth because we saw him in the tank. Now, this actually does kind of set up Boba in Mando season 3 if you think about it, because remember the scene where where Boba is walking, we just discussed it, and he's like, I'm not cut out for this. Maybe we're not cut out for this. And then Fennec responds with, if not us, then who? Cobb Vanth. He can come in and take over while Boba goes off and fucks around with Mando in season 3.
Yeah, you're completely right. Because, yeah, him ruling a city and being in one place. I mean, this is like Danny and Marine kind of stuff. Like,
What?
right? Like when it comes down to it, no one wants to see somebody governing a city. They want to see somebody off having adventures, right?
Mm.
And so, people didn't like Danny and Marine choosing to rule. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if Boba Fett trying to rule a city and his tax policies, literally his tax policies were part of this season. I don't know if that makes good entertainment.
Well, once again, he has no connection to these people, but I think this is just maybe Disney trying to sideline Boba Fett's story. But once again, I've said this in the other episodes. I'll say it here. The reason this show was not that great, I actually have a couple of theories, but one of the main theories for me as to why this show wasn't that great is because we already got the Boba Fett show we wanted. In Mandalorian season 1, it's a guy in Mandalorian armor going around, kicking ass, taking bounties, seeing the galaxy. That's exactly what we wanted from a Boba Fett show. Now, the one thing I'm struggling with is if Disney had to do it all over again, should they just had Boba Fett be in the place of Din Djarin with Grogu? Or is Din Djarin, the character of Din Djarin, better as like an original character to tell this story?
Hmm.
That's up for the fans to debate. But I wanted to talk about the Avengers style team up because the reason it sucked is because Boba Fett had very little interaction with most of these characters besides
Yeah.
Mando and Fennec, which I have to say I loved like the Mando Boba like friendship they got that broke.
Oh yeah, I wish we had a lot more of that. I would
Oh,
love to know
so good.
because one thing they never went into in Mando, which in the Mando series, which I wish they had, is Django has some sort of relationship with the Mandalorians. Like he fought in this war. He has like something related to the Mandalorians should have passed down to Boba Fett. We understand that the Mando has his beliefs, and we understand that who are the other faction of Mandalorians? What was her name?
Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan. We understand that Bo-Katan has her interpretation of Mandalorian creed. I want to know what Boba Fett believes. I want to know what Jango Fett believes. And we have no inkling on that. He does say at one point, you believe all of that Bantha fodder or something. And Mando says yes. And he says good. But what does Boba Fett believe? Like, what is his creed? I'd like to know that. Is it ever explored when we saw young Boba Fett in Rebels?
No, it's in Clone Wars.
In
No,
Clone Wars?
anytime young Boba Fett showed up, it was just him being like edgy and just "Nyeh," and like he was kind of like the character of the day, and then the next episode they kind of moved on. They just
Gotcha.
had like a little mini adventure of him with the other bounty hunters, and yeah, it doesn't really go into like what he like core believes in like his core, but I'm assuming they'll explore this in season 3. I'm assuming.
Hopefully. I mean, we had this scene where these two men in Mandalorian armor battled back to back. And, you know, I'd like to believe there was some sort of like unity of feelings and honor or code going on in that. But it turns out it's something completely different. It was Mando, because of his religion, staying there, and Boba Fett illogically wanting to defend a bunch of strangers that he didn't know from drug dealers, you know?
Yeah, that's why. Well, that's what I was saying. That's why it comes off as very interesting, especially like with the hackers. I don't care about the hacker kids or Chrysanthemum, but
Yeah.
Boba does. Why? Like I know in the comics, like Chrysanthemum and him work together, but not everybody reads the comics, so okay.
Yeah.
But even then, if you're gonna make them a team, why don't you give us a scene of them all just hanging around together? We don't get a scene like that at all. He just walks up to someone, says a few lines, and then walks off, and all of a sudden everybody's okay. Everybody's chill.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the reason this worked in the Avengers film from 2012 was that each of the characters, each of the Avengers got their own movie, they have their own motivations, and then they had a scene together where they hang out and bounce off each other. Here, it's just a bunch of people who come together, plus Mando and Fennec, who Boba has most of his interactions with.
And I
So,
learned nothing about the background of any of these people. Like I learned
yeah.
nothing about like how they were raised, what they believed. I mean, it was the same with Mandalorian. Like except for a few very brief flashbacks, like you don't really understand why Mando believes this, what he really believes. Like he doesn't go into it very much. He just kind of says like one line, "It is the way," and then you're not really sure what the way is. I mean, and I love all the temple stuff when Mandalorian goes to his temple and he talks to the religious leader and the religious leader tells him something. I'm like, well, I guess that's what Mandalorian believes, even though it's from the mouth of, his religious leader. And so, I mean, I like it, but because it gives me insight on what's going on in in Mando's head. But, you know, that's about it. Like I do wish they had a little more world building, but in the sense of the character. Like, what did the character do in their life? What did they believe? How were they raised? Like, I don't know how, like, at this point, we've been with Boba Fett for so many years. How was Jango Fett as a father? Did Boba Fett like him? Does he look back on the fatherhood of Jango Fett fondly? Does he think it was a mistake? Does he want to, is he angry at Jango Fett in retrospect? Is he still angry at the Jedi for killing his dad? Like, these are kind of big things. We had some flashbacks of him on Camino. What were those flashbacks for? Like, what did those tell me about Boba Fett? And how did it relate to the current story? How did it relate to the Tuskens? Like, why did he like the Tuskens? Because they could fight really well? So he likes his dad because he could fight really well? What are the what values does Boba Fett have? I just don't know.
What I got from that whole situation when we were doing the flashback with the Tusken is that, once again, it's that line from Game of Thrones Season 8. Lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. Boba Fett has been a lone wolf his entire life. He saw his dad go off every night and do some bounty hunter stuff and come back. Boba Fett, for the most part, was kind of alone, I guess, for a majority of his life, always doing his own thing. And here you have the Tuskens who kind of, respect his strength and, in a sense, welcome him in as one of their own. I just think it should have been the people of Mos Espa who did that instead of the Tuskens.
So, okay, I see what you're saying, but if the plot were Boba Fett was always a lone guy, he was alone. He was raised kind of lonely with just his dad, but his dad wasn't actually around very much. And then he became a bounty hunter and spent most of his life alone. And then he got a family. It got killed off, but now he has a new family. Like, let's say that's his new thing. He's gone from loner to family man. Shouldn't the ending of the show been like his whole family together? Like in a final scene? Like, shouldn't I have been seeing him with his family, exploring that?
You kind of did. I guess, kind of. It was Fennec, the Chrysanthemum, and the hacker kids, and the Wookiee gets a melon, I don't. I guess. That little scene, and everyone lived happily ever after the end. That's kind of what it felt like, and it was kind of, It has this. The ending scene was weird when that happened, because, like, okay, Boba Fett never had a moment where he sat down with any of these characters and had a conversation with them. He just kind of talked at them, and they talked back at him, and that was it.
Right. I mean, as much as the Mandalorian had way too many scenes of him, like, gazing at Baby Yoda puppet, it did serve the function of establishing that he's getting attached to the kid. Mm-hmm. We don't have anything. We have nothing. And it's not like Mandalorian has any conversations with Baby Yoda, but yeah, we had nothing. We have nothing of Boba Fett, like, talking to the hackers. Nothing of him talking to Ming-Na Wen. Nothing. Nothing of him.
He did talk to Ming-Na Wen, except she is, like you said, she's kind of like his mirror, and all she ever does is, "You want me to kill him?" Like, that's everything she ever... Like, "I have a problem, Fennec. This guy's bothering me. I don't know what I should do. You want me to kill him?" No, just... Jesus, no. Just give me some advice.
Do you want me do you want me as a 60-year-old woman to put on this helmet and then jump around like a 22-year-old parkour person?
Hey, she can pull it off. But I'm glad you mentioned Grogu. So he should not have been in this episode at all.
No, like, it was way too dangerous. Like, he shows up and then...
No, not that it was way too dangerous. Well, yes, but this should have been saved for Season 3 or Season 4 of Mando, because him showing up again so soon ruins that emotional finale of Season 2 of Mando, because it's almost pointless now. Because Grogu spent a few months with Luke? A few weeks? Okay, cool. But I expected their reunion to be more of its own thing, not in the middle of an already crowded battle. It takes the emotional weight out of it.
They completely undid Mandalorian Season 2, just so they could, like, reset it and be like, well, Mandalorian Season 3, they're back together, having adventures. Yeah, they undid everything.
Well, I'm assuming Mando season 3 will be him teaming up with Bo-Katan, the other group of Mandalorians, taking
Yeah.
back Mandalore, the planet. And I guess that's how he redeems himself in the eyes of his own sect. But here's the problem. I'm assuming this is going to be the conflict going forward, is that he has the Darksaber. Bo-Katan's like, I want that, but I have to beat you for it. And he's like,
Yeah.
ah, fine, just take
Yeah,
it.
that's
Like, that was what it
I
was.
think there's a big there's a good conflict there that I hope leads somewhere. I think they're going to screw it up. I think they're going to make it as empty as possible. One thing all the three seasons, Mando 1, Mando 2, Boba Fett, is lacking is like, real emotional um conflict between characters. Like, that's what all of it's kind of really lacking. But uh, I mean, at the same time, is Star Wars, does Star Wars really have much of that? Isn't this supposed to be popcorn, mindless fun?
It doesn't have to be
Like,
all the time.
yeah. So, maybe I'm expecting too much from something that's, a bunch of aliens, on aliens in space blowing each other up. Like, maybe I'm expecting too much, but I think it would have been better if there was just less. Like, I think had he spent more time, had they had less action and more time, like him connecting with the characters, and the final fight just being him on the Rancor, like slaughtering people, would have been good enough. And you didn't need to have the Rancor going crazy afterwards and
That was
Grogu
filler.
putting it to sleep.
That
Like,
was filler. They were filling time. Get the fuck out of here. That was
yeah,
stupid.
it climbing up a tower, like what, like why,
King Kong
Yeah,
and so dumb. But like in the end, I don't know. It kind of feels like Disney forced Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni to do this without little thought. There was almost no thought put into it. Like you can tell the real intention was with the Mando stuff in episodes 5 and 6 because that's where all the meat and potatoes of all the interesting stuff was. And I,
yeah.
I, I kind of feel bad for Tamora Morrison because he has come out and he says he wants a season 2 where Boba goes out there hunting for Mace Windu. No, I'm good on that. Like, first off, let Mace Windu die. Let characters die. This is not Dragon Ball Z. Not everybody
Did
needs to come
did
back.
Mace Windu die like 25 years ago? Didn't
Yeah, but like
was it he thrown out a window?
yeah, Samuel L. Jackson himself has come out and said multiple times, like, there's no body, let me come back and do some stuff. And I guess Tamora Morrison probably saw that and he's like, yeah, let me go hunt him. But even if that was the case, why would you want to go hunt Mace Windu? It's over. You're over your issues now. Your new life is ruling over this planet that you didn't want to do until a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'd really like to know. I mean, I'd really like to know what Boba Fett believes, what Jango Fett's backstory was, how he relates to the Mandalorian movement. Like, it's really weird that we've had all these people in Mandalorian armor that have nothing to do with each other. Like, so. Yeah, they all happen to have the same armor, but they believe completely different things and are not really related in any way. Like the fight, like the political fight for the Bo-Katan political fight for Mandalore has nothing to do with Mando and his religious sect, and Mando and his religious sect have nothing to do with Boba Fett.
It kind of does. They were in once again, this is like Clone Wars stuff. So, and they did not do a good job of explaining this or setting it up. The religious guys and Bo-Katan's people, they kind of, it's funny because Bo-Katan used to be a part of another group that was just as dangerous as the religious sect guys. So, Bo-Katan's sister, who was Obi-Wan's love interest in the show, they were the peaceful Mandalorians. So there's a bunch of different smaller groups who have strong oppositions to each other and the main core of Mandalorians who are peaceful, and now it's just kind of one big fight to see who rules over everything, kinda. Thus the Darksaber.
Mm,
So
mm, mm, mm.
it's they really didn't establish that. So I'm assuming Boba will be back Cobb Vanth will be like the vice president of the fucking Tatooine or some shit, and Boba will be back to help Mando because they're bros. And their whole broship was really cool. I like that. Mando is a good friend to Boba, especially when he's like, it's on the house. Like, you're just a bro, homie. Like, good stuff. I like that. We need more of that.
Just kiss already.
Oh, by the way, so Boba Fett, I was telling this to Preston before we started. Boba Fett's a comedian, right? So I find it funny how, once again, he spent 7 episodes trying to rule over Tatooine. At the very end, he's like, I'm not cut out for this. But there was one more joke that he said at the very beginning of the show. He goes, hold on, I screen capped it right here so I can go back to it. He goes, in the very beginning, he says, our skill is no match for the Syndicate numbers. That didn't seem to be a problem in Season 2 when you killed like 3 fucking battalions of stormtroopers. And then you assaulted a mini Star Destroyer. Boba Fett wasn't in it, but Fennec was. You assaulted... Mando and Fennec and with help, of course, assaulted a mini Star Destroyer, and you killed even more guys.
It's true. Who actually had military training, right?
Right, but now the numbers are an issue. Fuck you. Get out of here. I don't want to hear this shit. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Dude's a comedian. Dude is hilarious. Stop it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't, again, now you're reminding me how much I hated like those Stormtrooper just fodder episodes. Like, oh God, like you're just killing bodies off, like just one after the other. It's just not entertaining.
It was a repeat in this episode with the Pike Syndicate. They just what annoyed me is they had the numbers clearly. Like Boba Fett and Mando probably killed like 50 guys. Show 50 guys on screen, but instead it was like 6 guys alternating and respawning over and over again. That's really all it was. It's like a Call of Duty level, really.
Right.
It's
right.
A Call of Duty level.
Like they've got their ring. They've got their ring screen. They've got their 6 costumes, and that's it. It's too bad they wasted Cad Bane, and too bad they didn't like just kill off a few more. They needed to kill off more protagonists, but
like the hackers all should have been wiped out. At least not the hot chick, leave her alone. But the other hackers, wipe them all out.
The palest girl on Tatooine.
I still find that hilarious.
You got the. Are you putting zinc oxide on your entire body at all times?
There's one scene where she's like, I was raised around these streets. I know my way around. Really?
Really?
So you want to raise
Huh. Really?
Anyways.
Where'd that accent come from? You're raised on the British quarter, because she doesn't sound like Mark Hamill's accent.
We're just shitting on this show. I'm sorry, guys. It was a really lackluster finale. Like, I wanted to like it. And I find this fucking hilarious because it's happening in Star Wars now. It happens in politics. Now it's happening in Star Wars. So the last episode got some flack because Cad Bane didn't look like his Clone Wars counterpart. Which, okay, like in the Clone Wars cartoon, the features...
His hat was bigger. People kept saying his hat was bigger in the cartoon.
I didn't hear that. I hear he wasn't blue enough. The motherfucker's old. Of course he's gonna get like a little lightish blue in his old age. Yeah. But like in a cartoon, the features are exaggerated. For the love of God, look at Count Dooku in the Clone Wars. Like, look at his beard. It's like a whole fucking other face.
I think it was just he looked great as a character. His makeup looked great. His makeup, he looked really menacing. It was the best makeup in the entire show.
Hands down.
Yeah.
But the one thing, like, to the people who really liked Book of Boba Fett and are jerking it off, I have a question. Are you guys just contrarians? Because this was not good. And I keep seeing people go, I don't know what everyone's talking about, all these incels. First off, there's only 3 people I've ever seen complain about it, and some of these criticisms I've never seen, like, legitimately. I'm tuned into like the subreddits, the Facebook groups on Twitter. Never seen anybody complain about like these specific issues you guys are defending. So I just feel like there's a lot of contrarians out there hyping this show up, and it really, realistically, it wasn't that great. Yeah. And that makes me worried for Kenobi, and hopefully Andor is good, because Andor, I think, just got greenlit for season 2, and season 1 hasn't even been out yet. So,
yeah. And not to get too political, but the end of the series did have a kind of massive conservative slant to it.
What do you mean?
Good guy with a gun slaughters off, like kills off all the drug dealers. Like that's all, like it's a big conservative fantasy is the good guy with the gun, like, defeats everybody. And then all of the syndicate is completely evil because they're all drug dealers,
Alien drug dealers.
Yeah, alien drug dealers. That's right.
When the Pike Syndicate sends people to Tatooine, they're not sending their best. They're criminals, they're drug addicts, and some, I assume, are good people, but we didn't see them there.
We didn't see them there. That's right. Yeah. Oh, man.
That's all I have to say about this. The finale, like, it was just kind of a little underwhelming, lackluster, entertaining. You're correct, but
yeah, entertaining. No, I mean it was just they could have cut a good 15 minutes of battle. They didn't need so many characters. Do you think they just wanted toys or something? They're trying to sell toys.
That's why they brought back Grogu.
Yeah, and like, but that's why they have the hackers. They can you can get Hacker 1 on their motorcycle, Hacker 2 on their motorcycle, and then you can get the Wookiee, you can get the Black Wookiee, and you can, all these people we've got all these heroes that are going to be action figures. There's a lot of characters, too many characters.
I'm assuming that's why. By the way, I love how someone on Twitter said that The Last Jedi is the 2016. The Last Jedi is like how the 2016 election was. Like no one still shuts the fuck up about it. And Last Jedi, I'm assuming Disney came to Rian Johnson and they're like, hey, look, you got to have more planets so we can like sell shit. So that's why it came up with Crate, and I'm assuming that Casino Planet, because they kind of were very weirdly, awkwardly put in there.
But they go to don't they go to like 45 planets in Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, they remedy that shit in the sequel. Holy fuck!
Like I remember because I think in the first 3 movies they visit three locations in each. It's essentially 3 locations in each movie, right? Star Wars is Tatooine, Alderaan / the Death Star, because they don't really get to Alderaan. They go to the Death Star instead, and then they end at Yavin, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got 3 locations. Empire Strikes Back is Hoth, Dagobah, Bespin.
You could also argue the asteroid belt, kinda.
Deep space, yeah. And then Return of the Jedi is Tatooine, a brief revisit of Dagobah, and then Endor. So there's actually fewer locations in Return of the Jedi. It's mostly just Tatooine and Endor, and then all of a sudden, like, I guess Phantom Menace has
Naboo,
3.
Coruscant, and Tatooine again.
Tatooine, yeah.
And then Attack of the Clones has Kamino, Coruscant, Tatooine again, and then
that rocky alien Genesis,
Geonosis,
Geonosis, right? And then Revenge of the Sith has
a lot. Oh shit!
Coruscant.
It has Kashyyyk, Megiddo, Felucia.
And I'm not even counting don't count the montage at the end. Montage doesn't count.
Oh, the montage during the Order 66 doesn't count?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
No, because that's too many. That's like it's like because each it's like I'm talking like where there was actually like I barely count Dagobah in Return of the Jedi. I guess they went back, but come on.
Okay. So
he was on Dagobah for like a second.
Do we count Separatist Destroyer, because they're on that for like the first good chunk of the movie?
Yeah, I think so.
That's not a planet, but okay. Well, planets: Coruscant, Kashyyyk, Utapau, and I want to say Tatooine briefly, and Dagobah briefly, very brief, and Polis Massa, which is where Luke and Leia were born, the asteroid place. God,
the final battle, the lava world.
Oh, Mustafar!
Right?
Thank you. Wow, I gotta forget Mustafar. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So now we're going. We might as well finish this off. Force Awakens.
Oh,
they got
God.
Jakku?
Jakku, and then you
Jakku?
have Takonanda, I think that's the name of it, and then you have Qatar.
Taco Nanda?
That's Maskanada's planet. And then you have, I don't want to say it's Qatar,
right.
but it's something like that. That's the Resistance planet. And then you had Starkiller Base slash
Oh, right.
Ilum. So that's 4. And then and Last Jedi you had Qatar. Qatar, the Resistance planet. Yeah, that.
Yeah, even though that movie is mostly in deep space again, because it's an
Right.
Empire Strikes Back throwback, but like you still get Casino Planet and then the original planet there at the very beginning for that
And then
battle.
Crate, and that's it.
Oh, the where she's getting trained by Luke.
Oh, I forgot about that. Wow, I forgot the name of that planet. Shit.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I've seen the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy so much that I know this all the time in my head. But the sequel trilogy I've seen maybe once or twice each.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even care. And then in Rise of Skywalker, they just go to, like, the first planet. They go to the Yavin?
Yeah, they go to the party planet.
The party planet, Pasana. And then they go to Kajimi, where they get
the guy's girlfriend's planet,
Right.
The guy's ex-girlfriend's planet,
and then they go to Sith planet in deep space. Before that, they're on the Death Star. I think
they go
that
back
was
they go to Endor again.
Endor, right? Oh, and you flipped out when I told you this. Mustafar is at the very beginning where Kylo Ren is killing those Vader cultists. You flipped out when I told you, you're like, Vader cultists?
That's so weird.
I'm gonna quote you here. It's tough. It's tough.
Oh my god. Oh jeez.
Preston, is that it? Can we wrap this up? Because my God.
I guess so. My god.
Guys.
Okay. Overall, you got to rank it. Like, what I mean, Book of Boba Fett. Scale of 1 to 10. What do you think?
This is the funny thing is, the only thing that keeps this from being a complete and utter trash, like below a 5, is the episodes 5 and 6. That's the only thing that, so I would give it like a 6. It's slightly above average, just slightly, which is a shame because it wasn't too boring throughout. They had a lot of boring moments, but a lot of it, a good chunk of it was like kind of neat. Okay.
Yeah.
Would I watch this again? No. Would not.
No, I mean that's the thing is I think it's almost overall I don't think it's horrible. I've seen a lot of horrible stuff. No. I don't think it's great. I think it's pretty solidly mediocre. Like It's so mediocre. It's so mediocre that I wouldn't even be able to tell stories. It's not like when we watch we've got to do our Raised by Wolves like Raised by Wolves is so bonkers. Or Westworld is so bonkers. Well, Westworld and Raised by Wolves are maybe bad examples because they are so incredible and awful at the same time.
Yes.
But it's like outrageous, right? Like how are you doing this? This is like the finest wine I've ever drunk, along with like a turd floating in it. And you're like, what's going on? Maybe not that hard. That's a little harsh. A fine wine with like a glob of peanut butter in it. I'd be like, what is this glob of peanut butter doing in my fine wine? Like, this doesn't fit. This is so odd and weird. I would never recommend Book of Boba Fett. I would never like complain about how it's the worst series ever either. It's going to be so mediocre and forgettable. It was, there was some stuff. There were some fun moments. It was entertaining, but it was empty. It was like eating pretzels,
Yes, that's a great analysis. That's a great analogy for it. It's like eating pretzels. It's one of those shows where if I never rewatched it again, I would die completely fine. I can go to bed at night knowing that this is what it is and that's it. It's not like, Mando season 2, I could rewatch again, no problem. I have no problem with that. Like, for example, you ever had like one of those shows where you really liked as a kid or as a young adult, and then you met someone and you wanted to share that show with them, so you rewatch it with them. I would not rewatch this with like a significant other. I would not do that. So, can we wrap this up?
Sure thing.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Book of Boba Fett. We will hopefully see you next time for anything else that is remotely more interesting. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.